What is up, Waffle Gang? I do hope you are well. My name is Mark, and today we're checking out some more us/AmITheButtHole. If you love a Reddit story, why not click that subscribe button, maybe that notification bell too. Let's crack straight on with today's stories. Much love, guys. Now, our first story comes from More Concern 3267, who says, "Am I the arsehole for making all the women in my family leave after they all showed up to my wedding wearing white? I, male 33, have a large family, mostly aunts and female cousins aside from mum, stepmom, stepsister and grandmother. I don't know how to say this, but all those women I mentioned above are into teasing and joking. They formed a unit, which I admit is kind of toxic, and they tease and roast every new woman that enters the family by marriage by setting up tests to see if they deserve to be a part of the family, or roast their looks and styles to the point of breaking confidence and self-esteem down. Then, after a few months of teasing, they'd announce they finally welcomed them into the family. The newest member would join in on the teasing too, which is crazy as my dad says. When I first introduced my then girlfriend, now wife, I made it clear that I didn't want any of the women in the unit to come at her or harass her, not even with a single word. They went behind my back and roasted her looks and job, and I discovered they'd been doing it on Facebook. I had them apologise one by one after they gave the "we're just testing the water to see if she's capable to be a part of the family" excuse. They didn't want to apologise, but once I said I wouldn't invite any of the unit unless they apologised, including my mum, everyone immediately apologised and brought gifts for my wife. First of them was my stepmom and my sister-in-law. My wedding was 2 weeks ago. There was talk about the women in the family wanting to pull a prank on my wife by wearing white and called it the ultimate test to see how my wife would react. My brother warned me, so I announced that if any of them showed up in white, I'd have them kicked out, including my mum. They said this wasn't true and they'd never do such a thing. But they showed up to my wedding one by one wearing white dresses, and each one of them was told to leave after they tried giving their excuses by either making scenes or getting the men involved. The senior woman of the unit, who are mum and aunts, also showed up in white and refused to leave. I threatened to take harsher action, and mum was pissed, telling me to step aside, but I didn't let her in. I had her leave while the men in the family were watching stunned. Dad was on my side and supported me a lot. I felt absolutely awful because my wedding was being interrupted by them making scenes. My wife was hurt beyond measure, but the women in the family were pissed. My cousin blasted me on social media later, saying I excluded all the women from the wedding because my wife was so insecure she couldn't handle another woman's presence at the wedding. I had an argument with them, and mum berated me, saying it was supposed to be a prank, but I said they were taking it too far. Mum said I took it too far by kicking them out because they were trying to get a reaction from my wife to see if she was one of those bridezillas and were going to change as soon as the prank was over, but I ruined my own and entire wedding by reacting so aggressively. I stopped talking after she said I had to bring my wife and apologise. I haven't seen a lot of them in 2 weeks and they excluded me from everything. Was I the arsehole for how I handled this?" Then OP does come in with some little edits which gives further information, so we cover that straight away with, "I just want to explain that A, this has been happening for years. The men in the family are split on this behaviour. Some of them encourage it like my uncle and my cousin's husbands. One is now an ex, and some are against it like me and my dad and my brother. B, the women claim that there's nothing hurtful in what they do because they claim they're just looking out for us men, and that their goal ultimately is to make sure the women who enter the family are decent. C, my dad always ends up arguing with mum and grandmother since they're the ones who started this whole thing with their behaviour and attitude towards other women. D, and I'm not sure if I should mention this, but my male cousin, who's a middle schooler, said he'd make sure to leave the country before even meeting any women because of this, and it made me chuckle. Also, the dresses they showed up in were simple white dresses, nothing over the top, but still were white dresses. I realised they went ahead with their plans, even after I stated what I'd do in that case." To me in this one, it almost felt like it was like a little cult within inside the family. It felt like a cult story. The fact that this group of all the women in your family have got together and they're testing women that come into the family is very, very bizarre. and a very toxic attitude to be doing anyway. So it's a 100% not the arsehole from me, and I can't see no other way around it, especially the way after you kick them all out, they're still blaming you for it. So there's no way you're going to be the arsehole, but I think it could be one of those no context situations. But WannaBite says, not the arsehole. Your family is toxic, and I'm so sad for your wife that they would do that. But also happy for her that she has a husband who will support her and have her back. I'm sorry your family tried to hijack your wedding for a power play, but you did the right thing, and your marriage will be stronger because of it. Colo Husker says, not the arsehole. This level of hazing has crossed the line to emotional abuse and blackmail, and that is probably understating it. It's very good you stood up for your spouse, you handled it well, but emotional blackmailers use family to pressure the victims into compliance with the abuse. Most often when standing up to familial emotional blackmailers, it ends with forced no contact for non-compliance. No contact is healthier, but it can be hard to be shunned from the family. Penny Whistles Moon Pie says, ugh, not the arsehole. First cardinal rule, don't wear white to a wedding unless you're the bride. If you do, you're the arsehole. Person of Perplexer says, not the arsehole. The women of your family are bullies. And Excellent Jello 7894 says, not the arsehole. What is going on with the women in your family? And how did you come out so normal with such healthy boundaries? If I had been your wife, I would have got into a fist fight with your mother and aunts by now, so I commend her class and patience. Your mother is frankly being a terrible mother by treating your wife like this. What happens when you have a daughter? Is she going to be tested also? This behavior is so bizarre and immature. When, not if, your mother decides to contact you again, tell her she's had her fun but now it's time to grow up and learn how to behave normally. It's a family, not a sorority. And if she wants to be allowed to see her future grandkids, she needs to smarten up. She's missing out on having a wonderful wife as a daughter and a friend, and she will miss out on more if she continues to be toxic. I think you're completely justified in everything you did. And we'll finish up with OP replying to that comment saying, this behavior has been there for years unfortunately. It's normalized by everyone. I gotta say, we have a family dynamic where the women are the ones dominating everything, starting with my mum and grandmother. I hate their attitude and hate that they act like this way instead of being extra loving and welcoming to new female family members. I said female because they don't pull this stuff with men marrying into the family. It only happened once and it created a rift in the unit. Now, what do you guys make of our first story? What would you do if you was the wife in this situation? Or OP? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Please Help Me Throwaway, titled, Am I the Arsehole for not taking down our Halloween decorations? There's an update posted at the bottom. My husband and I moved in to this neighborhood about 2 years ago after we got married. We haven't been able to celebrate Halloween the last 2 years due to COVID. It's our favorite holiday, so this year we decided to go all out. We've filled our yard with tombstones and skeletons. All of our bushes and trees are wrapped in fake webbing, the tree closest to the street having a 6-foot spider dangling from its limbs. The final touch was a huge rope web that we added extra webbing to fill it out, that hangs from our roof all the way out to the street. We're not into gory stuff, so we got a couple of fuzzy spider decorations to place around the yard. It took us hours to decorate, and we were so excited. My husband looked like a kid in a candy store. Yesterday, while my husband was at work, I heard a knock on my door. It turned out to be my neighbor. He looked absolutely frantic. I didn't have a chance to ask what happened when he yelled in my face, "You need to take all this shit down." I was really taken back. This neighbor has always been very nice to us. I've seen other houses decorate in the past few years, maybe not to this extent, but I know it's not against our HOA rules. I decided to ask if that was his issue just in case. He looked at me completely dumbfounded and started going off, "Cut the crap, you need to pull all this away. My wife has arachnophobia. Your yard practically gave her a heart attack this morning." I kind of fucked up here and laughed. I didn't think our purple fuzzy spiders with big googly eyes would even scare the little kids in the neighborhood. "You're pulling my leg, right?" He got in my face and practically stepped into my house. "You're going to scare my wife to death. If you and your husband don't take this shit down, I'm reporting you. I'm a retired police officer and I can make this a real problem for you." I started seeing red and getting really uncomfortable because I was completely home alone and my husband wouldn't be home for hours. Even if I wanted to take it down, it would be impossible without his help. Listen, this is our first time getting to celebrate Halloween in our house, and we really put a lot of effort into our yard. We don't even have any gory or graphic decorations. None of our spiders even look realistic. Can we please not do this right now? I don't give a shit. Take it down or else. He didn't really give me a chance to answer. He just started walking back to his yard. Our decorations are not scary. Other neighbors have said our yard is cute. We also spent a few $100s decorating. It would be a huge waste to take it all down. I haven't told my husband yet because I know he's petty and will throw a fit and probably decorate with even more spiders out of spite. I refuse to take down our decorations. This is really important to us and I just want to enjoy my favourite holiday with my husband. Am I the arsehole? And I'll read the update because it gives a little bit of relevant stuff and the update isn't huge anyway. So update, a lot of you wanted to see my decorations, so here's the pictures. You can see the big web, fuzzy spiders on the bushes and our big guy in the tree. I talked to my husband about it and we're installing a Ring doorbell this weekend. I'll be taking it up with the HOA and documenting everything that happened going forward. We've covered many stories with phobias in the past and, what always comes out of it in the end is, the person needs to deal with their phobias. Because a lot of the time, especially one with arachnophobia, you're going to be, especially during Halloween season, there's going to be pictures of spiders all over the place. You walk into supermarkets, there's like little spider toys on the shelf, decorations and stuff like that. And I'm not someone with a phobia like that, so it's hard for me to say, but I don't think the decorations are too bad. I like those decorations. I think they're pretty cool and would love to see a house like that. But also the way the husband came to your door, banging, getting in your face, and then threatening, he has connections within the law enforcement, makes him a huge arsehole in this situation. Didn't come to you and say, is there a way that we could maybe take a couple of them down or anything like that? Was just no straight out. Not that I'm saying you should anyway, but was just straight out, take all this shit down right now. Absolutely not the arsehole to me. But Misa Bear 9 says not the arsehole, but he is. I would call and report. He was making threats. Oberdicta says not the arsehole, firstly because this guy was incredibly aggressive and threatening instead of making polite requests for accommodation, and secondly, while I appreciate people having irrational fears, lots of people put up spiders around Halloween. If his wife can't even walk past your house with its cartoonish spiders, she may want to talk to someone. I recommend you record this incident and invest in a front door camera in case this man comes to harass you again. Linsmid says not the arsehole, file a police report, he threatened you. Also, add some more spiders. Lotus Eater says not the arsehole, but you need to tell your husband and maybe the police that your neighbor threatened you. And one more from Lieutenant Shorts who says not the arsehole, you know this, but I would have a doorbell camera installed to record the threats if this turns serious. Now, what do you guys make of our second story? What would you do if you found yourself in that situation? Would you accommodate and take down the spiders or not? Let us know your feelings in the comments below and we'll move on to the next one. And our next story comes from Love My Car 66, titled, Am I the arsehole for telling neighbors' kids to leave my apartment yard without calling their parents? Their parents were looking for them because they expected to find them there. I live in an apartment building with a communal yard for residents. The other buildings on the block are single family houses. One of the nearby families lets their kid play in the apartment building yard, which is super weird because they have a yard. Anyway, on Saturday, I had planned on throwing a barbecue party and had cleared it with everyone else in the apartment building. There are only 7 units, but when I went out to set up, there were a bunch of random kids, ranging in age. Some were the neighbours' kids. I asked them if they lived here, and none of them did. I asked them if they were invited by someone who lives here, and one kid said their mum said that they could play here. I asked if their mum lives here. I know she doesn't, none of the other renters have kids or young relatives in the area. The kid said no. I said that I do live here, and just like how I couldn't show up at their house not knowing anyone and not invited by anyone to hang out, they couldn't do that at my place. I said there was a park a little walk away that has a public space they could go to, but they couldn't stay at someone's home unless they are invited. The kids left to presumably go to the park and I started the party. Then a couple came by looking for their kids. My friends were confused, saying that they had gone to the wrong house. Nobody here has kids. The neighbor said that the kids were here and my friends were confused, saying that they definitely didn't have any kids around and that they were having a 21 plus party. I overheard this confusion and came by to say that a bunch of kids were around earlier, but they didn't live here or know anyone who lived here, so I told them to head out. The parents asked where they were and I said I didn't know, maybe the park. The parents were upset with me because they had sent their kids to play with my weird neighbor's kids, and the weird neighbor told them the kids would be playing in the public area behind my apartment. I said sure, but I think the neighbors were mistaken. My apartment doesn't have a public area, and so if the neighbors said the kids could play there, they were mistaken. The parents were angry with me for kicking kids out to go somewhere unsupervised and unknown without talking to any parents. I should have asked the neighbours to come get their kids instead of being like, "You can go down the park" or something. I said I didn't have time for that. I was already busy and inconvenienced since I'd worked with all my neighbours to make sure I could host a party in their yard that is for residents, to find some randos who don't even live here hang out in my space. The parents went looking for their kids and didn't come back, so I don't know what happened there. Am I the arsehole for kicking the kids out of my apartment yard without telling their parents? Look, I can understand parents being worried that their kids have disappeared from where they thought they were going to be, absolutely, but it's not an OP's fault either. It's 100% not the arsehole for me. The children is their responsibility. OP didn't send them away unsupervised. They were clearly already unsupervised because they didn't know where they were. And when I was younger, and I always remember like having to go back to my parents, if we were going from one area to another, I go to my parents and say, look, I'm going to be here now. So they always knew where I were. That was just what I was like told to do when I was younger, and we absolutely did it, and we had no issues. But Kano B says, not the arsehole. You didn't kick them out unsupervised. They were already unsupervised. That's not on you. Also, don't most free-range kids have cell phones these days? Ethel says, not the arsehole, so they wanted you to take responsibility for their own kids because they couldn't be bothered. No, you didn't just run them off because they were there. You had an excellent reason for sending them to the park. A 21 plus party is no place for unsupervised children. They could have stolen drinks, gotten hurt, and whose fault would that have been? I'm sure to the parents, it would have been yours. Fearfish says, not the arsehole. Even in your property, the kids were unsupervised, so for the crazy parent that does this, what should be the difference between this and the park? No knowledge says, not the arsehole. The parents were angry with me for kicking the kids out to go somewhere unsupervised, and then says, who was supervising them in your yard? Sounds like the parents just want to blame you for their crappy parenting. And one more from Tasty Biscotti who says, not the arsehole. Kids should have been returned home to tell their parents they were going somewhere different. It wasn't a public area and you rightfully told them to leave, and then quotes, the parents were angry with me for kicking kids out to go somewhere unsupervised and knowing without talking to any parents, and then says, who was supervising them at the garden? Now, what do you guys make of this one? I think it's a pretty clear-cut one, but do you have a different opinion on it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below and move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Courty Cash, who says, am I the arsehole walking my dog without a leash? I, female 32, have a 2-year-old 75-pound Labrador and a broken ankle. I'm currently in a half leg cast and not allowed to put weight on my left leg or do strenuous activity. I'll be in the cast for the next 6 weeks. I'm using crutches and a knee scooter to get around. I live in an apartment with a large green spaces and a trail, and it's been hard to walk my dog. When on the crutches, I can't hold the leash. I tried to leash walk him on the scooter, but that wasn't safe either. The trail is very hilly. We slid on the scooter and I fell down. Since then, a week ago, I've been walking him off leash. To clarify, this was not my dog's fault because of the slope of the hill. Before you ask, yes, my dog has been through professional training and has good recall. Yes, I have friends who can help walk my dog occasionally, but I can't ask them to help 4 times a day for 6 weeks straight. Now, to the am I the arsehole? My neighbour, whom I already know is afraid of dogs because of his demeanour, plus comments about my huge and scary dog in the past, saw us walking without a leash and scolded me for playing on a toy instead of watching my dog. I showed him my leg and attempted to explain that I'm on the scooter because I can't walk, but he doubled down and yelled at me. I feel I may be the a-hole because I am breaking the community rules, which says my dog must be leashed at all times. I could technically keep the leash on with the scooter, but as I said above, he already knocked me down once. Now, I think it would automatically make you the arsehole just because you're not following those community rules to begin with. They're there for a reason, you're not following them, so it would automatically make you the arsehole. And I know you're in a bit of a predicament at the moment because you don't want to rely on your friends 4 times a day like you said, but at the same time there is other options out there. There's always other options. I mean, you could use a dog walking service for the time being just while you're recovering. And I know that's additional cost, but it's kind of part of the responsibilities of being a pet owner. And I know you said that your dog has good recall and things like that, but it always winds me up when I like walk Poppy and people got their dogs off the lead and they say, oh yeah, they're well trained and stuff, but they come running up to Poppy and yet still can't be recalled because they're so interested in what Poppy's doing. And Poppy's petrified of other dogs, so it makes It makes Poppy's walking experience, who I keep on a lead all the time, an absolute hellhole when they got dogs running up to her and sniffing her and running around her and things like that. It's not a good time. I try to walk her out of the way of other people, but it doesn't always work. But Shadow Fox says, "You're the arsehole. Sorry, I get you're hurt, but if your dog is so well trained, he should not be pulling you over like that. Most places have leash laws that you have to abide by." Naps on my favourite says, "You're the arsehole. Leash your dog. Good recall is not perfect recall. And a dog who will pull you on a leash down a hill is not a dog whose professional training has been thorough." Can says, "In addition to the apartment's rules you're aware of, walking a dog off a leash is a horrible idea for the dog's safety in most circumstances. In a situation where the human is incapable of running to help if the dog gets away and something happens to it, absolutely you're the arsehole. I'm sorry that your leg is broken. It may be time to consider a dog walker." Big Job says, "You're the arsehole. A 75-pound dog off the leash in a crowded residential setting is a disaster waiting to happen." And one more from Beskar, who says, "Sorry, but yes, you're the arsehole. I'm a single dog owner myself, and I get your tough situation. But your apartment rules exist for a reason. Off-leash dogs are a danger, and also in danger if they happen to forget their training and bolt after another animal or car. You knew what was in the lease when you signed, so you obligated to abide. Your neighbour sounds like a dick, to be honest, but he does have the right to live in a place without unleashed pets." Now, what do you guys make of this one? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and we'll move on to the next story. And our next story comes from Alt Account 66, titled, "Am I the arsehole for calling my husband out for lying about our baby gender? My husband, male 31, and I, female 29, are expecting our first child together. We plan to have 3, by the way. Ever since I got pregnant, my husband's been saying he wanted our first child to be a boy. I don't know why, he never cared in the past and is the type who treats everyone equally. But his reason was that he was the first child, boy in the family, so it'd be lovely if we followed the tradition. I didn't take it seriously because honestly that's ridiculous but harmless, so why not just let him express his wishes? But later I found out he was telling the family it was going to be a boy, and that he had a hunch and he was 100% certain and positive about it. He kept saying the same thing over and over. I had to tell him to slow down because even if he didn't know he was going over the top, he was still giving the family false hopes. He promised to stop but still says he had a strong hunch and that I'll see that he was right all along. We found out our baby gender this past week and it's a girl. My husband admittedly seemed a bit upset and he said it's because this was not what he was expecting. Even said he wasn't sure about the ultrasound results, which is a bit much. Anyway, we got home and he stayed on his phone for hours. In the evening I started getting calls from family congratulating us for the baby boy. I felt confused. I asked my mother-in-law how she found out and she said my husband made the announcement on his Facebook. I was upset. I checked this page with my phone and saw it. I wanted to talk to him about his lie, but first I made an announcement on my Facebook and announced that it's a girl, then called my husband out for lying to his entire side of the family. He apparently saw it instantly and came into the room, looking angry, asking what I was doing. I asked why he lied to his family about our baby's gender. He said it was just a temporary lie, till he could slowly get them to think it'd be a girl. I said this was illogical and unfair for our daughter. His phone rang and he freaked out, demanding that I take the post down because his family are beginning to see it and are calling. I refused and he got more pissed, saying we should be discussing this privately, not calling each other out on social media for everyone to see. He told me to take it down, but not until he takes his down, which he called petty and passive aggressive, and then stormed off saying he won't be answering anyone's calls after I sent them to harass him on what I posted on my Facebook, instead of talking to him privately. Am I the arsehole? And we're going to start straight away with Soul Piece 2, who says, wow, red flags, not the arsehole. Hope your child grows up loved. 11 Gold Please says, I don't even need to vote. You and literally everyone else in the world knows your husband is being delusional, ridiculous, narcissistic, and completely unreasonable. My hopes for him as a father are not high, and this is a huge red flag for your relationship. Sweeper 1985 says, not the arsehole. He's acting like a child on so many levels here. Openly expressing disappointment about his unborn baby's sex, setting his family up with false expectations, going behind your back, doubling down on his family first silly lie, getting mad at you for telling the truth. He's got a long way to go in learning to be an adult, let alone a husband or a father. Jonelle says, this is actually really worrying for someone who is about to become a father to a girl. You are clearly not the arsehole. I'd go stay with a family if I were you. No way would I be hanging around to listen to him gaslight me while I decide if I want to stay with him. And one more from Lemon Sherbet 2 says, not the arsehole, but he's right. You shouldn't be calling each other out on social media. I'd be more concerned why my partner is suddenly so concerned with having a male child, to the extent that he's willing to lie to his whole family. Does he think if he keeps wishing it, the baby's sex will magically change? This behavior seems toxic, and I'll try to initiate some kind of discussion, even in therapy, together or him alone, to work through why he's acting in this manner. I hope you get some answers and support soon, OP. Now, let me know what you guys make of this story and today's collection of stories. As always, I love to hear them down in the comments below. If you have a moment of your time, would you please consider hitting that like button as well, as it really helps out the channel, and subscribing if you ain't subscribed just yet. Thank you so much for your love, support and time, and I will see you in the next one. Take care guys, much love.